You need only one keyword. Only one keyword. And you are able to define what is a debit note and a credit note. One keyword. Even if you forget most of the things that I'm going to say during this lesson, just remember this one keyword. This one keyword is going to help you define debit note and credit note. I am going to tell you this one keyword, and you will agree with me that this one will help you define what is a debit note. I did a video on what is a credit note. Please listen to the video. I have given you a demonstration that is understandable to everyone. You are capable of understanding. Even if you are not a student, you need to know what is a debit note and a credit note. And I always use simple language to help you understand what is a debit note and a credit note. And as a business owner, when are you supposed to prepare a credit note? You are supposed to know, when am I supposed to prepare a credit note? In which scenario that am I supposed to prepare a credit note? Okay? So that you are able to identify immediately a case where there is a case of a credit note or a debit note. I will help you identify. Which scenario are you supposed to prepare a debit note? I explained the credit note extensively in the previous video. So listen to the previous video. This is something you can never miss to understand, because you are supposed to know. It is your responsibility. You cannot say you don't know, that's why you didn't do it, because the information is out there. And as a business owner, we expect you must know what is a debit note and a credit note, and it is beneficial to you if you know what is a credit note and a debit note, and you have the understanding, so you are able to prepare a debit note or a credit note when the need arises. You will not bypass this process. I know every business have come across debit note or credit note. Even if you have never prepared a debit note as a business, I know you were supposed to do it, but you bypassed that procedure. And it is very important. So today, let it be your turning point. From today, you are going to prepare a debit note or a credit note. And as a student, as an accountant, come and learn the importance. Okay, this is something you must know. Even before you prepare a credit note or a debit note, you must know the importance, so that you don't bypass that process. When you know the importance of something and you know it affects you directly as a business, you will give it the seriousness it deserves. Okay, this you must give it the seriousness it deserves. It is something that you cannot bypass. So today we are learning about debit note, and I am going to explain to you what is a debit note using an example, a demonstration, and the definition will come last. Okay, I told you my definition may not look like your definition, but there is always a keyword that the examiner is looking for. Examiner is looking for that keyword. If he misses that keyword in your definition, you are wrong. So my definition, my arrangement of words may not be the same as yours, but there is a keyword that must appear in your definition and in my definition. I hope you are with me up to that point. Okay, so today we are running debit note. I am going to use an example that will help you understand what is a debit note, and everyone can understand the way I am going to demonstrate. It is something that is understandable to everyone. You are capable of understanding. That's why you are in this class. That's why this is the level that the examiner wants you to be. Okay, if you are in grade 8, if you are in high school, if you are doing your CPA, it means that you are capable of understanding. You are in this class because you can be able to understand. Your brain can be able to understand. First of all, acknowledge that you are capable of understanding. Even if you have not understood it before, just acknowledge that you are capable of understanding. So you must keep trying, and at long last you are going to understand. So debit note, what is a debit note? I'm going to use an example. You are the business owner. You are the business owner. Now, being the business owner, you are, there is a scenario you are supposed to prepare a debit note. Which is this scenario? You sent an invoice, you sold some goods to a customer, you gave them an invoice of less amount. Maybe they were supposed to pay 1,500. Now they were supposed to pay 1,500, but you sent an invoice of 1,000. So how do you make adjustment? How do you make them pay you the remaining amount 500 and it is not in the invoice? It is not in the invoice. So the customer can defend themselves and say that they were not supposed to pay because it is not in the invoice. As a business owner, as a seller, how do you defend yourself? How do you claim the remaining amount from the customer? What is the right accounting procedure? What is the right procedure to claim the remaining amount from the customer? Obviously, the customer is very happy. You have made an error and now they are going to pay less. But how you have realized as the seller, as the business owner, that you made an error, you undercharged the customer, so they are supposed to pay more than what is in the invoice. This invoice you sent them. The customer is happy. He can defend himself that this is what is in the invoice, this is what I have paid. But how do you claim as the seller the remaining amount? That's where the debit note comes in. Debit note comes in to solve that dispute. You are able to claim the remaining amount from the customer. Now, thank to debit note. Thank you to debit note that we are able to claim the remaining amount. You don't tear the previous invoice. You don't delete the previous invoice and write another one. No, 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 no. That is not the right accounting procedure. What do? You are going to write a debit note of the remaining amount. Then you are going to send it to the customer and then you are going to claim the remaining amount. When you said that the debit note is a way of claiming the remaining amount. So, debit note is used to claim the remaining amount. And in this case, you want the amount in the tax invoice to increase. You want to increase the amount in the tax invoice. You want them to pay more than what was in the tax invoice. You are going to use a debit note. You are going to send the debit note to the customer. The debit note, you send it from the seller to the buyer when you want to increase the amount in the tax invoice. Are we together up to that point? I hope you have understood. You as a business owner, obvious, the way you can claim the remaining amount from the customer. They were supposed to pay more, but you made an error and you sent them an invoice that is less amount than what they are supposed to pay. How do you claim the remaining amount? You are going to write a debit note and you are going to claim the remaining amount. Okay? And this debit note will help you solve dispute. The customer sometimes may say, I was not supposed to pay, you are charging me more. But if you have the debit note in place, it is a way of defending yourself. The customer disputes will come up. There will be complaint. Some customer will complain. But let me tell you, when you prepare a debit note, I'm giving you just a good advice. When you prepare a debit note, just keep it together with the invoice that you adjusted. Keep it together. And you are going to thank me later. This is a way of that this one will help you solve disputes. Dispute will come in the business. Some customer will always come to complain. Some of them will complain. You cannot tell me that you have never had a customer who had complained before. And if you don't have this document, you cannot defend yourself as the seller, as the business owner. So when you prepare a debit note, and even if the customer pays, please keep the debit note in a safe place. I would advise you have a file for the same, for the debit note, and the file for the credit note, and put it together with the invoice that you adjusted, so that even when you are doing audit, it can be internal audit or external audit. When you are doing audit, you are able to know what happened. You can trace this transaction. You can trace the transaction. When you put it together, you can trace the transaction. You can see this is the invoice that I adjusted. Like in the case of a debit note, you'll see this is the invoice that I increased the amount. You don't increase the amount by writing another invoice. You are going to use the debit amount, the debit note. You are using the debit note to increase the amount in the tax invoice. Okay? So I hope you are with me up to that point. So let me just now define the debit note, because I know my point, you have understood up to that point. So I want to define what is a debit note. Okay, be patient because I'm going to expound on this. It is a document. It is a document. Okay, let me use the be patient. Patience is very important for you to learn. Issued by the seller to the buyer. Now you are the business owner, and I have told you the scenarios that when you are supposed to prepare a debit note and a credit note. So this one is used to increase the amount. You want to increase the amount in the tax invoice? Use this one, use debit note. Okay, so let us read together. Please read, help me read this. Debit note is a document issued by the seller to the buyer to increase the amount in the tax invoice previously issued. You have issued an invoice previously, but you realize there was an error and you want to increase the amount in the tax invoice. Okay? You want to increase what the customer owes you. In the tax invoice, for example, I told you the amount is 1,000, but the customer is supposed to pay you 1,500. How do you increase the amount to 1,500? You send them a debit note of 500. Okay, I hope you are with me up to that point. So debit note is used to increase the amount in the tax invoice. So the key word is increase. It is used to increase the amount. Use this word. Okay, debit note, the work of a debit note is to increase the amount in the tax invoice previously issued. Okay, because I told you the work of a credit note is to reduce the amount. Debit note, increase the amount. Credit note, reduce the amount. So the key word here for the definition is increase the amount. Debit note is used to increase the amount in the tax invoice previously issued. Because if we made an error in the invoice, we don't write another invoice. That is not the correct accounting procedure. We don't write another invoice. If you make an error, When writing an invoice, you have issued an invoice and you realize that you have made an error, you don't write another invoice. You don't tear the invoice or shred it and throw it in the dustbin. That is not the right procedure. You don't write another invoice to correct the invoice. You are going to either issue a debit note or a credit note. It depends on what you want. What is your goal? If your goal is to increase the amount in the tax invoice, you use a debit note. If your goal is to reduce the amount in the tax invoice, you are going to use the credit note. I hope you are with me up to that point. Okay? What is your goal? The keyword is increase here. Debit note. You must, just the keyword is increase. So even if how you are going to arrange your words, but the word increase must appear there. Okay? Here it means you have undercharged the customer. You have undercharged them. You want them to pay you more now than what was in the invoice. So, in this case, as a seller, if you want to increase the amount in the tax invoice, you issued an invoice previously, you want to increase the amount, you don't write another invoice. You are going to prepare a debit note and do that adjustment using the debit note. Okay, I hope you are with me up to that point. Okay, so what is the importance? It is very, I hope up to that point, even if I have not told you what the importance of a debit note, you know now. You can even help me highlight what's the importance of a debit note. You can see the importance of a debit note in your daily life. I know now you have the idea. I don't need even to go to the importance, but I want just to analyze two of them. So I have already told you that if your goal is to increase, if your goal is to increase the amount in the invoice, you want to increase the amount in the invoice that you previously issued, you are going to use a debit note. So is it important when you are doing your tax filing? Tax filing, it helps you when filing your taxes. Your taxes. Okay, it helps you when filing your taxes. Okay, especially VAT. You have sold goods and okay. What is the impact? What is the effect of a debit note to your taxes? What is the effect? Okay, I want to ask you a question. It helps you in filing your taxes, especially when you are filing your VAT. Okay, especially VAT. So, what is the effect? What is the effect? What is the effect of debit note? Not debit note to your taxes. To your taxes. What is the effect? What is the effect? What is the effect of debit note to your taxes? This is an example. This is a question. This is a question, okay? I want you to understand what is a debit note. And even you understand what is the importance of a debit note. So, what is the effect of debit note to your taxes? The importance of debit note to your taxes. How does it affect your taxes? What is the effect of debit note to your taxes? Okay, the effect, the debit note will increase. It will increase your sales tax. It will increase your sales tax. So when you explain debit note to a person, and even you expound on and you tell them how is it going to affect their taxes, your taxes will be affected. Because when you write a debit note, it means you have to adjust your sales tax. Your sales tax will increase. Your sales tax will increase. Okay? So, note somewhere. When you write a debit note, make an adjustment to your sales tax. And when you are filing your VAT, factor that in. Factor it in. Okay? I've already answered this question. This is the effect of debit note to your taxes. It will increase your sales tax. And finally, please keep your debit note safe, in a safe place. Let it be kept together with the invoice that was adjusted. Keep it together. Use a stapler. Keep it together. Use a separate file for debit note and credit note. Okay, so that you can be able, it will help you when you are doing your internal audit, external audit. It will help you trace your transaction. It will help you solve customer dispute. You are able to defend yourself because you have the document. Okay, we don't rely on memory. Our memory sometimes will fail us, so it's good you keep your documents in the you keep your documents safely. And don't take a lot of time before you file your debit note and credit note. If you take a lot of time, what will happen? You are going to forget. So immediately you prepare a debit note and a credit note, just put it together with the invoice that you have adjusted. Just file it immediately, put it in the file, print and put it in the file. Okay, and if possible you have an accounting system, please record that transaction, narrate that transaction immediately. You have prepared a debit note. Okay. Okay.